Thank you, everyone. I'm Trina Booz. My last name sounds like alcohol. And so I'm usually on stage talking about job search strategies and personal branding and things like that, being a recruiter. And so when Alex called me and told me that he wanted me to talk about leadership, I thought, I probably could talk about that, and I have a lot of experience as a lead in this industry. So I'm going to kind of talk to you about leadership from my perspective and from my experience. So I think I could have taken the presentation many different ways, different avenues, and I chose to kind of begin with my story, kind of have you get to know me a little bit. And from there, we could talk about my perspective on leadership and what I think it takes to be a strong leader. So a few years ago, I was launching one of my 2 companies that I run, and I was in a room kind of like this with about 30 entrepreneurs, and we were all in kind of a mission statement session. It was like an information gathering, discovery session to help entrepreneurs figure out how their business was going to be positioned. And it was a CEO of a very well-established retailer that was kind of guiding and leading that process with us. And it was a really emotionally trying time, experience for me to kind of stand in front of 30 people. And he put me through the ringer on things like, childhood experiences and experiences from when you were a teenager and decisions that you made in your life, personally, professionally. And I think he was trying to get to the core of who I was by kind of understanding the decisions I made in my life, to then understand what kind of the core of Trina Booz actually was. And I was almost driven to tears. It was a very trying, emotionally interesting experience. And so I think what came out of that was that there was this one very clear mission that I've seemed to have always followed in life, which is I bring people together. And that, when I looked at it, kind of just seemed very obvious. It seemed very simple, it seemed very obvious that every major decision that I had ever made in my life seemed to be kind of based on this. And you too. You're like that too, I think. And so I knew I was on the right track when I was kind of planning these 2 businesses and kind of figuring out how I was going to be spending my life building these businesses. So that was great. Big revelation. It was kind of that big aha moment for me. And so from there, I was then able to kind of seek out partners and colleagues and vendors and people, professionals, organizations that I wanted to work with that also kind of match these guiding principles. And so over the last 13 years of having Ad Lounge as the first one that I launched, I've had a really amazing opportunity to partner with people of many different levels, professionals of many different kind of areas of expertise and specialization. And what I've found is, everyone that I've ever worked with tends to also kind of believe in this, as kind of the thing that we all hold near and dear. And anyone that doesn't, I don't really enjoy working with. So it doesn't really work out. And so, I've had some pretty crazy ideas in my career, and, being someone that is kind of a driving force within the industry to do the interesting things that I'll tell you about in a bit. I've also had a lot of people not really embrace my ideas because I have big ideas and they're hard to execute, or they're maybe too big, or maybe they're just crazy. And so what I have found is there are ideas that have been supported in my career by key people who really believe in that same thing that I do. And so a lot of credit needs to go to them. And I think the whole topic of leadership, my opinion is that it's kind of almost overrated, I think, in a way, where a lot of credit tends to go to the one person who came up with the idea. And an idea can kind of be a wonderful idea, a vision, but if it's kind of not executed and you don't have the support as the person that's kind of the conceptual person, then it just sits on a shelf and it kind of just dies. So I think that's kind of my experience with leadership, and I'll explain to you a little bit more about why I've come to that perspective. But so I mentioned I run 2 companies, and one of which is called Ad Lounge, and you can go to the site adlounge.ca. And how it evolved is it began as a simple kind of Yahoo group. Does anyone ever use Yahoo groups now? The WordPress guy. Yeah, it was. So I was kind of a bit of a nerd. I liked, tinkering around with, internet technology and like BBSs back in the day and like all of those things. And so Yahoo was a pretty cool tool that I used to basically connect a lot of the students that I was going to school with at Sheridan College. I learned that, in order to get a job in advertising, it's actually not really about what you know so much. It's really about who you know, and that was something that these always say to us, it's about who you know, get out there and network. But when we were in school, they never would really encourage that, within your peer network. So there were classes A, B, and C, and we never really got to know each other. And so this is why Ad Lounge kind of started as a college project, to connect people that were peers within kind of the school environment. And it soon became known and used as a tool by the Sheridan advertising program to talk about things pertaining to the program and social events and things like that. And then it became known beyond Sheridan. All the other schools and grads started to hear about it and join. And then it became known by industry professionals who then also started to come and join. And it became this really interesting kind of hub of recent grads, current professionals, all in one place. And I had an industry professional who worked at one of the industry associations at the time, who reached out to me and was a huge fan of what this potential thing was that she saw. And she told me that she wanted to help kind of grow it. And so she pushed me to kind of take Ad Lounge from where it was, a simple little Yahoo group, a student who had no idea what I had kind of tapped into, to a really pretty cool thing. And she worked evenings and weekends tirelessly with me to try to help kind of build this up. And she got us recognized by a lot of industry associations and senior professionals to kind of make this thing a big deal. And so, someone, thank goodness, thought the idea was worthwhile and helped support it. So now Ad Lounge is over 5,500 members within basically the GTA Toronto area of people that work in the marketing, advertising, communications space. And, we offer industry events a chance to meet and learn and network. And it started as like a meetup kind of like this within a bar setting. But from there, we've really evolved the events to be something that I'll explain later. And, we're pretty actively involved in getting to know the industry people and supporting them and getting to know what their accomplishments are as individuals and professionals and kind of putting them in the spotlight and letting them kind of be featured. So does anyone here know who Sheila Sisson is? No, I didn't think so. You might not get the privilege of getting to know her. She's in Calgary, and she's not really the glorified kind of front man of an organization at all. She's, however, a leader in her own right, because Sheila is the one who kind of helped bring Ad Lounge from this idea to actually making it a pretty big thing. And so she was what I'll call kind of a spark to my idea. So I owe a lot to Sheila, and I'm kind of going to dedicate this talk to her today. So Discourse is one of the events that Ad Lounge does. And Discourse is something that we target a lot of CEOs, VPs of different agencies, different brands. We invite 25 people, 14 of them are allowed to come, so they have to basically hurry up, RSVP. They get invited for a dinner at somebody's home. It's usually a lovely mansion somewhere up north somewhere. And we have a chef that caters the event. And we talk about one topic. They're kind of thrown a random topic, and we kind of videotape it for the evening and see where it goes. So connecting people, bringing people together. This is a lot of fun, and it's actually really beneficial for my other business, the recruitment business. So Art from the Unexpected, another one where we do an art event where we target CEOs of 20 organizations. They have 6 weeks to make a piece of art. They come to the event, pitch their concept live in front of 300 people, and it's very nerve-wracking for them because they're CEOs. They do not paint at all. They're not known to be visually creative. They're putting themselves out there in a very uncomfortable situation, and they're raising money for charity. It's a silent auction. We usually raise about 25 grand when we do this for this charity that we partner with. And then we have the Next Gen Dinner Series, which is how I know you two, right? And Alex at the back there. And so this is something that we do for young grads, people that are graduating from marketing, communications, advertising, and we help to connect them with senior professionals in the industry. And it's a competition. They compete for their chance to have dinner with heads of companies. And so that, I just want to kind of paint that picture about what we do. And then there's a Boost Agents business. I mentioned that I run two. So this is my pride and joy, Boost. And so it's a recruitment company, and we cater to the marketing, creative communications industry, primarily focusing in the Toronto area. We work sometimes in California, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary. But since 2010, we've been really kind of trying to address 3 goals at Boost, and I think one of which is addressing the challenge that the recruitment industry has when it comes to poor service and maybe bad reputation. So we try our best to do that and maybe look for ways to create intimate connections with candidates and with our clients, and through doing a lot of the things I've shown you. And also to run a company where people love coming to work, and we, enjoy, people feel they're looked after. So in turn, we have fun. That's our summer photo shoot. And, we tend to place a lot of roles that are described up there. Designers, advertising people, account execs, strategy people, people that work in the high-tech, advertising, financial services, publishing, not-for-profit retail space. So over the last 3 years of doing recruiting, probably interviewed about 5,000 people. And we have a lot of interviews. There's a team now that handles, incoming resumes and things like that. And as a result, I think it's fair to say that due to the mass amount of people we're meeting, we can see that everyone wants to be a leader. This is something that I think everybody aspires to. And one of the questions that I ask people quite often is, have you been in a situation, in a group environment where you've had to, the project didn't work out, and group is falling apart, and you had to, maybe things went off track. What role did you play in that scenario? And every single time I've ever asked that question, the answer is always the same. It's, well, I was the lead. I really saved the project, and I got the team on track, and you got everyone working together, and I was like the communicator and everything, and and it's funny because I'll ask the same question to someone else that was in the same group, and then they'll say the same thing, and so it's funny because it's clear that we all want to be leads, and we're trained to believe that this is the role that is the most important role and deserves, that one person deserves all the credit, and no one really else matters in the group, and that's the one who really gets all the glory. So that kind of brings me for my reason for being here today, to talk to you about leadership. That was a really long intro, but does anyone know who any of these people are up here? Marissa Meyer, Seth, Mitch Joel, Terry O'Reilly. he's my advertising crush. Marissa, yeah. Yeah. So I kind of talked about my core reason for being, which is bringing people together. And I think each one of these has a very distinct core value system or their reason for being as well. So we look at Seth, for example, and Seth is amazing and he just makes cool shit happen. I mean, he's an author of 17 books. He has the most popular blog in the world. He runs, what's that blog that he runs? Squidoo. And he's a public speaker and he's just amazing. And he just does great things. So we look at someone like Mitch Joel, who's our Canadian version, maybe of Seth, I don't know. But he is just always turned on digitally. You want to know what's happening? Go there, he will tell you. And so that's him. And then we've got Marissa, who I think for her, she is known as a woman in the tech industry. She has excelled very, very quickly in her career. She's young, and I think she, as a woman at least, I think she shows a lot of women their inner strength and what's possible. And then we've got Alex Bogusky. Isn't he handsome? So handsome. Anyway, and I think his core thing is that he solves social problems. He's handsome. He solves social problems with products and with brands. And then maybe Terry O'Reilly, who is very much about telling insightful stories in the most compelling way possible, and his voice is just the most lovely thing in the world. Does anyone listen to his show? Yeah. So actually, Avalanche did his book launch, so that was really fun. But so each person has managed to garner a group of followers, of people who really believe in what they stand for, which is, kind of one of the big things about being a leader, is to have kind of this core value system, and people will usually follow you because they might share in that same kind of belief. Now, the thing that I kind of hesitate in showing you these leaders is that they're so well known, they're so accomplished, and I think a lot of the times it's very easy to believe that this is what you have to strive for to be a leader in business or just in marketing. And it makes it, to look to people like this, it makes leadership, I think, almost seem quite unattainable. And, they've done some amazing things and they are really great role models. But in my opinion, you don't have to always be striving for this. So I guess by that, I'm going to ask you, when you think of leadership, what are images that come to your mind, or what are things that, maybe words that come to your mind that describe what you think a leader is?
Inspiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Collaborator.
Accountable.
Yeah.
Disciplined. Charismatic.
Disciplined. Disciplinarian. Yeah.
Servant.
A servant. Interesting.
Vocal.
Yeah.
Empowering.
A little nutty. Are they usually a little crazy?
Eccentric.
Yeah.
Influential.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you my favorite video. Does everyone know this video?
Yeah.
Really? I'm going to show it anyway because I think it's so great. We do have internet access, don't we? Okay. So, the thing about this video is I think it, to me, illustrates, it's a perfect kind of illustration of leadership, because it shows that it's not just the one person that is responsible for making cool things happen.
More seconds.
It shows that there are individuals also beyond the one that had the great idea to make, to make kind of a movement happen. So, has anyone not seen this? Okay, well, enjoy it, it's good. Wow. If only he had Alex Bogusky's head on that
If
body.
you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes, and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore. It's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first. Stand out, you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not one, it's not two nuts. A crowd, and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers, because new followers. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
Isn't that the best? I just love that. So, okay, hold on. Let's just find this. So what the video teaches us, I think, it's all the things I've been saying. You know, there's a leader doesn't really exist without a spark, and that spark being the one to kind of get that movement happening. And you know, the one who deserves some serious credit is that person who kind of realizes that you know, the initial flint it has something that can catch fire. So I look at Sheila from, you know, the early Avalanche days, and she jumped on board when no one else really would, not because they were being difficult, but it means time, and it means, you know, it's supporting something that is unfamiliar and things like that. And so that really, you know, to me is someone that is having the ability to support something and step outside of kind of an area where you're comfortable is actually a big thing. And I think also about Boost, you know, when Boost launched and we were only like a few months old, finding our first employee, it's difficult, you know, because I hire people with experience, and finding someone who's going to take that risk to leave a job and come and work for a complete startup, to me as well, that shows an incredible kind of person who's going to take that risk. They may not be the one with the idea, but they're definitely the supporter of that to make things happen. So, you know, how to find the person to start a fire with. I think this kind of goes back to the whole what do you stand for? What does the lead stand for? Are you even, could you be that leader, you know? And if not, the one with the big idea, that's okay, because it's more important to be the other person anyway, I think. But as you're kind of exploring your career path and as you're exploring what's next for you, it's important to try to kind of take yourself back to, remember I talked about that information gathering stage, 30 people in a room, think about all the things that have helped kind of guide you in your life. And I think that if you can kind of get to what that core thing is that you respond really well to and that matters to you, and if you can try to align yourself with an organization that shares the same values, or an employer, or an idea, and then find someone to be that spark, you know, I think that's a really great thing to do. So, so basically, you know, if I kind of look at Boost and I look at the things that, I look at kind of how I'm positioning it to a potential employee, or if I'm positioning it to a potential client, if I were to position it as, you know, this is what we do by our services. So, you know, we are a recruitment company and we cater to the marketing industry, advertising, creative, and we place temporary, contract, and permanent hires. If you want to use our services, it's not very compelling at all, because I've missed out on why. Like, why are we doing this? You know, there's no compelling reason that I'm going to pick up and go and follow you and go work, leave my employer and go work with you. Or there's no reason why I'm going to leave my trusted other recruitment company and go and work with you. So, you know, if I then approached it as we challenge the industry's reputation for bad practice and poor service, and we look for ways to bring people together and to create intimate connections with clients and candidates alike. We care about and truly appreciate our staff, and we place temporary, contract, and permanent hires within the marketing, advertising, and creative space. So would you like to work with us? So, you know, that is how we approach a lot of our new business pitches, is kind of telling the story as to why we even do what we do, not what we do. Then it becomes a much more compelling pitch. Yeah, go ahead.
I also think that the brand that you built, for Boost Agents, is really brilliant. It just gives you a feeling that it's a creative space, it's a place where people are having fun, so it's actually something that a potential hire or an employer that would want to use your services, they can already feel a warmness to working with you. But I think it's very well positioned. Like, if you look at a lot of recruitment agencies, they're very boxy, IBM, you know, but your brand is really brilliant. So I think that that's really good. And also, with regards to the Ad Lounge project that you have and all the initiatives that you have, I think they're very inspirational to me. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing there. I just still can't understand how you make money. Because you give back so much.
Yeah,
like, I don't
Ad Lounge
understand
doesn't
how you
say
make. Okay.
Yeah, Ad Lounge is not intended to be it's not.
Yeah.
Now, but it's kind of a marketing engine to what we do, of Boost,
exactly.
right? So then we look at, you know, knowing that's amazing. Thank you so much for that. And, you know, we really work hard. We invest a lot of time and energy into community and into doing things that I think make us a little bit different. So then we get emails like this. Are you hiring at Boost? I want to work with you. I want to continue to be impressed by the work you do in the industry. We're just a recruitment company. You know, there are a lot of recruitment companies. They're really, you know, I think it's interesting that people are emailing us and saying, like, love the work that you do, you know, it's like really inspirational. And so that's, I think, because of the stuff that we stand for. And even clients too, and, you know, our approach is refreshing, and, you know, they love that we have an important focus on cultural fit and all of that stuff. So, and there's really, you know, not much that I'm not really sure why this is being perceived out there, without having a meeting and talking to someone, but it is. So it's really exciting to kind of see that, and so in turn, people that also believe in that philosophy that we tend to stand for tend to want to work with us. So, you look at, again, these leaders, and what I really, really want to drive home is how important the spark is. And each one of these leaders did not start here. Mentorship is a key part of growth. And it takes a special person to be that spark. And none of us are really that brave at all to be that person. And I think that, to be the person that's the first one up dancing next to the crazy fool. And, and so just find out who you are and don't miss the opportunity to really, to be that spark to someone's great idea. So I don't know if you guys are really looking for kind of a talk on marketing and where things are going in digital and all of those things. I know we kind of talked about that a little bit, but I decided not to do that. So if you have questions about this or about marketing and career path, I'm happy to answer. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
I'm actually glad you didn't talk about marketing.
Okay.
It's great.
Yeah, thanks.
If you're to hire people for your company and for your brand and culture, and you said you had experience with 5,000 applicants,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you've seen that are definitely no-nos? Like the red flag,
Yeah.
don't hire this person, they're focused the wrong way. What would you say?
Well, as a recruiter, you tend to see the real person because people tend to think sometimes that you are that intermediary between the hiring manager and them. And so sometimes they will show their true colors to you, and and so it's I've seen candidates that will actually put their feet up on the interview table and interview or that just don't come prepared, Like when I think about when recruiting for our company, for internal candidates, things like doing your research and actually understanding the organization and knowing who the people are within the company, especially if it's a small company and they're very visible online. Having a reason for wanting to work at the company is a very important thing. Researching the actual job description and coming prepared with a pen and a paper and a printout of the job description and a resume. Find out how many people are interviewing you and bring enough for everyone. It's those kinds of things that are just the basic, interview etiquette kind of things that I see.
And what percentage would fail at that? What the things you
Oh my goodness, it's
high?
yeah, like I would say like 80%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So always do that. Things like, for example, as someone that wants to work for Boost, you were amazing at this, by the way. Follow up after, and explain why you're interested in working for the company, and just be polite about it. I'm really interested. I just want to emphasize the interest here, and because if you don't, someone else is going to, and then you've now gone from the top of the list down. And so that I think is really good. Not to follow up again, and you leave them to make the decision now, but I think it shows interest.
People want to work for people. People want to hire people who want to work for them.
Exactly. Yeah. And people also want to hire people who are almost kind of like them in a way too. So if you can research that person and try to understand little insights about who they are and their interests and their experiences and things like that, and start referencing that a little bit without seeming stalkerish, then I think that shows, they're trying to find that common, interest. Yeah.
To show interest, one of the ways is cold calling. How would you say cold calling as?
Say that again, sorry?
Like your cold calling is again one of the ways to show your interest, and your maybe in an aggressive way to show that you're interested to work for the company. How would you see that? I mean, from a
cold calling, both is impressive and annoys me at the same time. So cold calling, thank you. Cold calling, if done properly and strategically, and concisely is a good thing. So, you know, we get candidates that will call and say, hi, you know, I'm calling, I have advertising experience, and I want to meet with somebody about a job. Thank you. And I don't call them back because we have 300 applicants every week that are coming through applying. Why would I give that person any time of day if they've not shown me any value at all? But if it's, hey, you know, I'm looking at this one specific job description, and I think I have the experience, and here are 2 or 3 points that call out to me that I think my experience can kind of address. I can address these 3 points that I think are going to be important on the job. My background is XYZ really quick. I'm going to send my resume right now, and you know, I'll follow up tomorrow. That is good because you've shown respect for that person's time. You've taken some work out of their recruitment to-do list, really, and you've helped them qualify you by showing how your skills make sense for their open job. Yeah. Right, Jill? Would you agree?
Yes, and the other thing is, I would add to that, is if you ever get somebody live, the very first thing out of your mouth is, do you have a minute to
Yes.
talk? Because
Absolutely.
if they don't have time to talk to you, they're gonna feel really annoyed. And then what you do is you get permission to call them back, and then they have to talk to you because you've given them permission. So that's the most valuable thing, is
Yeah,
to always
that's
ask,
true.
if you get them live, say, do you have a moment to talk? And if they say no, say, can I call you back at a certain time? And they
Yeah.
get the time. And then send them an email to say, thank you, I'm gonna be calling you back at 2 o'clock on Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I wanted to ask you about what you were saying earlier about, most people will say that they are the person that, you know, saved the project or whatever.
Yeah.
Have you ever encountered people that were sort of, you know, like the sort of the follower type, like people that said, well, you know, I wasn't really the lead, but I came on and sort of,
No.
I took up these roles, or?
No. I then probe further and I say, come on.
Get out of my office.
Yeah, like, you don't have to say that, you know, and so that's when I probe a little further, but no, the first response is always like, I took the lead, and they could be the most, you know, introverted, like quiet person, but they will still say that because it's what's expected. You know, I don't know if you, again, Jill, if you agree with me on that, but I've experienced it so much.
I don't get
So
too much that they say they've taken the lead. I mean, unless I
Really?
specifically ask them, tell me a
Yeah.
situation where you took the lead.
Yeah.
But I do know that, I mean, I think the biggest talent that you have as a recruiter is that you really know how to probe and understand. Because some people, especially if you're starting, you don't know how to answer. I mean, there's some people out there who are professional interviewers, you know, they've interviewed everywhere. And so I think the value you add to your candidates and your clients is actually understanding how to have a conversation, get to the need, train your candidates how to interview.
You know what I think it also is the types of personalities of people that work in marketing.
Very extroverted, and they're also
they're type
told,
A.
sell,
Right?
sell,
Yeah.
sell, take advantage.
They're very type A. It's the industry we're working in, I think, as well, that helps make that the common answer that we see. If it were, you know, like finance or something like that, it might be a very different thing, you know, or
But
like
everyone
software
knows
engineer.
everyone, so don't take credit for something you didn't do.
Yeah.
That was a very small town.
You spoke a little bit about the importance of mentorship. I'm just curious what your opinion is, and you know, how critical is it to have a mentor within your organization, or someone who might be a little bit more unbiased, that's outsider's perspective.
Do you work in a small company? Is that what you're asking?
No, it's not especially small, but I was just curious because I have a mentor, you know, pretty clear cut, like through an established program, like it's a formal mentorship program.
Okay, yeah.
But you know, it might be valuable to have another mentor that's, you know, with a third party.
Yeah. If you can have lots of mentors, that's
Yeah,
a
more
great
than
thing, right? To get different
You find
perspectives.
mentors too, like so many people are so busy, like
Yeah.
starved. It's like, how do you establish an informal mentorship relationship with
Yeah.
someone you highly admire or respect,
Yeah.
right? Like,
I mean, you could ask, it's just,
Yeah.
you have to make sure that you're providing them value, right? It's just like, how many coffee requests do I get on a daily basis? I can have 100 emails of people that want to meet for coffee to pick my brain, which I hate that expression, never use it. But, you know, it's like, it's realizing that someone's time is valuable and kind of communicating what it is you want out of it and why you think they can help you, and communicating what the time commitment is going to be and that kind of thing, I think is helpful. I have no time for that kind of thing because I do a lot of mentorship programs, so I don't really, you know, can't do these one-on-ones. I wish I could, but I can't do it. So, yeah. Hi.
I have a kind of similar question or related about like finding that spark, and I guess it could be a mentor, but it's also just kind of your first follower.
Yeah.
So like in the video, the guy just kind of dances and hopes somebody comes to him. So maybe like based off your experience with Sheila, did she find you or did you find her?
She found me. Yeah.
Would you like, what if she didn't find you? Do you think you would have found a similar trajectory?
I didn't really
or-
have an idea that this would go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just a little pub thing that we would do, you know, so, yeah.
Actually, yeah, you know, I think to get to where, to Trina's point, I think it's about knowing what you want and having as many conversations, and somewhere a spark will spark. I think, Trina, it's probably you talking so much about it and having your idea and doing it, and that's how that's, you know, becoming known.
Yeah.
And then the spark will find you.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's about whatever you're up to, tell everyone, tell as many people, and.
Like, I'm not a public speaker at all. I don't really public speak. I mean, for an event, I'm more host. I'm kind of back-end person that's making things happen. So you know, it's interesting to kind of tell you about the experience and the story and everything like that. But you have a question.
Yeah. Let's say that I found a co-founder who's a follower for what I believe in, and we are trying to.
Say again, you found a co-founder of what, sorry?
Like to work on a project, right?
Okay.
And we are trying to get the someone who's in marketing on board. So if we are not gonna give any money, at least on the immediately. So what do you think is fair to offer this marketing person to come on board on this new startup and join us?
The equity. I don't know. The equity thing, I don't go there, really. Like, as a startup, like, I think, I don't go there yet. I don't have had to go there yet.
Like, let's say if we are trying to get a fresh graduate, someone marketing on board, not like an experienced person.
You want to add? Go ahead, yeah.
Well, I would beg to differ. I think that you perhaps not in your best interest, but if you are, and I sense that you're looking for somebody to really build and launch the endeavor, the venture. So I don't think that the marketing individual that you would require really should or would do it for anything less than a good chunk.
What's the value? It's a two-way street. What's in it for me?
You're looking for somebody to launch an endeavor, I think. Am I correct?
Oh, what's that? Sorry?
Am I correct in that? My presumption?
I didn't hear the assumption.
You're looking for someone to help you launch an endeavor?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, then this person is really driving the effort, I would think. You're looking for that individual.
Yeah, like what percentage do you think he's?
I'll let the lawyers discuss it. Do your due diligence. And I think that's really the professional attitude that both parties would have to take on it.
What level are you looking for?
Like the level of the project or the level of involvement?
Of the individual.
That's part-time. He's gonna be involved part-time.
Yeah.
But what is his function, not what is his time commitment? From your perspective, his function is to launch your endeavor.
That makes it challenging right away, though. Is
Is it an experienced marketing manager that you need? Because if so, he's going to probably have to leave his job or stop spending as much time at his current job. He probably won't do it for nothing.
I'd say he will be involved at the beginning as part-time, and if we see things picking up, then probably he will leave his job. Yeah.
No, but what function are you looking for? In marketing, what role?
Is it like
well,
director, VP level, CMO, like?
No, it's like I'd say someone who's gonna handle the SEO and get the adoption going up for the project.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer.
Do the public relation, press releases, that thing.
Yeah.
I have a question. So you've had a lot of experience working with young, up-and-coming talent, as well as more senior people through the agents.
Yeah.
What have you seen the really successful people do, like, as they transition their careers? Like, wow, I know where you're going because you're doing all the right things. And what would those I guess it would depend on the role or the training, but is there something that generally you can talk about? How do you excel?
There are people that I've seen in their careers who immediately are very strong mentor. You asked about mentorship, and you can tell right away when you meet with them that they are just a natural mentor and are going to be very interested in kind of grooming future other leaders within their teams. And so an example is just a recent one where I actually was working with a very large financial services company on a very senior role. I called a candidate, brought him in to talk, phone screened him to talk about the role, and he said, you know what, this is completely up my alley, love it, but I don't think this is the right time for me. And he says, I'm going to put you in touch with my top guy, top performer at my company. And he said, you know, I would hate to lose him, but I think he's ready for a move, and we cannot offer him what he needs. You know, as someone who really looks after my staff, you know, I do meet with them regularly to talk about performance and to talk about really career plan and objectives for them. And personally, I know where he wants to be, and I know we can't offer him that. So for me, I look at him as someone who is going to do very well because he's not only concerned about helping himself. You know, I mean, maybe if his boss found out that he did that, probably would be a good thing, but I think that for him professionally and being someone that really cares about the well-being of his team and personally and professionally, he's going to kind of raise and grow some really interesting people within his team and be concerned about their professional advancement and try to offer them things within the organization if he can, and if not, I mean, that is what happened. But you know, I've seen things like that. I've seen people who are just very, very involved, like you, with a lot of extracurricular things, but also you've managed to kind of link your organization and to a lot of these events that you're doing, and you've seen and shown a lot of value by getting the Dells of the world to come and talk, which then could in turn, you know, generate new business. So it's being creative as well. People that are creative that kind of have a role, they've got their box that they work in, and they kind of try to play outside of that on occasion and experiment, and they're able to kind of get their boss to approve certain things. And you know, I think that I've seen people that are quite strong at being a little bit outside of the norm in their roles and have done very good things. So if that helps address your question, yeah.
You mentioned the concept of having a mentor. What happens in that sort of relationship when the mentor, well, I'm assuming they're experienced, so they probably would know better, but the things they're telling you ends up being no doubt from experience, so they're kind of clamping down their own sort of example or of them onto you. When does that sort of balance come into play where that's not you, or how do you, that same person, he ends up becoming a mentor and a mentee as well? That he plays both sides. Even for experienced and new people, do you think they play both parts too?
Well, I think that's when I say you want to offer your mentor value. I think that's the whole, there's a value exchange. There's an initiative called 10,000 Coffees. Do you guys know of it at all?
Yeah.
And the whole idea, it's a website, you can go in and you can sign up as an expert, you can sign up as a novice. And I could be an expert, and I could also be a novice. And so I'm actually signing up for both. And what the whole concept is You, when you sign up as an expert, can be an expert in the field of, let's say, marketing or personal branding or whatever, you know, like web development or something like that, entrepreneurialism. And you could state that you are interested in introductions about maybe potential hires, so recruiting. Or you could state that you're interested in helping startups and advising startups. Or, you know, there's a lot of different reasons why you can be selected to be this expert. And then as a novice, you then have to apply and you state what you want out of an introduction to these novices, to these experts. And what you do is, there needs to be, so if you, who's on it? Stephen Harper is on it. Like, there's some really incredible people on it. And I mean, anyone could be an expert.
As a novice or
as a it's there's some, you know, some interesting people on there, and you know, Olympic athletes and things like that. So you can then, as someone who's a novice, say, I want to meet with Alex Babesky, or I'm sure he's on there. And I'm going to meet with Mitch Dole, and Mitch, I want to take you for a coffee. So the whole concept, 10,000 coffees. You then apply by doing your research on Mitch, and you have to then show what the value is that you're, like, what is the reason that you are going to meet for coffee with Mitch? What do you want to get out of it? And in turn, the way you apply, you're going to have to show him that you've done your research, and that potentially the reason you want to talk to him is going to be of interest to him because maybe it's about some cool startup that maybe he wants to, you know, invest in or something like that. And so you talk about, you know, being a mentor and a mentee. The whole, I think, idea behind it is that you, as someone that's looking for advice, you're getting it, but at the same time, there's a value exchange there.
And giving it as well.
Yeah, and so I actually met with the founder of 10,000 Coffees last week, and he was saying that the introductions that they've seen, they've only just launched, I think, a month. And they've seen these really quality introductions where both parties are getting something out of it because of this whole, like, reason to the requirement to apply and do research and everything like that. So when you talk about mentorship, that is so important. If you really want to work with someone or get advice, you have to kind of prove that they need you as much as you need to meet them, you know? So, yeah.
Hey, I think I'd like to actually just offer a comment on leadership, because I was recently watching a couple of videos for Seth Godin and Marissa Meyer too, and I think it's important to draw this distinction between what we're fed by the media as in this digital economy as leaders that just have this big idea and they're working with Oculus Rifts and they're moving all stuff around and sorts of things like this, but also leaders on individual teams or individual groups or parts of departments and things like that. And it could be different levels of leadership within organizations. And you have people that are cultural leaders. There are people that are leaders in the way that they bring a certain amount of passion and cohesiveness to a team to really pull together and get them to work together around an idea that may be something that's sort of trickled down from up above. So it's really important to sort of figure out what you like to do, what your passion is, and you sort of get magnetized towards the things that you believe in, and that's sort of what you end up becoming a leader in. Because unless you sort of define that, other people are more than willing to, just out of necessity, figure out, okay, here's sort of a position that I've got, and you've sort of got the skills, so I'm going to put you in there and do what you do. But then we always hear about people not really being satisfied with what they do, and oh, you know, I hate this, I wish I could be doing that. But really all you need to do is just define what it is you like, and then take little actions, be part of groups like this, you know, meet, and you sort of end up meeting people and becoming a leader in your own right. And that takes a little bit of time to, like a cake, it takes time, but once you get to that point, you're ready to serve up and you know, not I got cake on my mind. But, yeah. So what's your comment on that? Like, what's your view in terms of whether there are different types of leaders in different spots throughout organizations that you cater to, or the people that come across your desk?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there is, again, this other kind of misconception with leadership that there's kind of this one person within the organization that can be the lead, or within a department, and that's it, you know. And you're right, like there are, that's interesting, like the cultural leaders, the people that kind of own that and everything like that. Absolutely, like leadership leaders have followers, but by nature of being a leader, it's not to create followers. I think it's more to almost kind of create leaders and have people who buy into that philosophy that you have. So if culture is something within an organization that you're really proud, really that you hold dear to you, and you can be that one to lead that initiative. If you're in an organization that embraces that and allows that person to go and take that, that's a great thing, but some don't, right? So I think it's, finding a place that embraces leadership of all different types and levels and everything like that. So, yeah.
What would you do if you're in a situation, I'm speaking about something that I'm familiar with, I've seen it happen. If you're in an organization and you or someone taking a leadership role and you're building others up, mentorship and so forth, and then you hit the block in that somehow, for some reason or another, management starts micromanaging, your official leadership role is almost stripped, and you have a lot of impediments from making any more decision, having any official role, which kind of harms your abilities to make an impact in the organization. You still want to help and you still want to give a lot of value, but you're just in a situation where it's like there's almost no value that you can add based on all the restrictions.
Yeah.
And I've seen it happen in the corporate environment and in small businesses.
Yeah.
How would you approach that kind of a situation? As someone who actually wants to add value.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe the kind of value you want to add is it's just not the prerogative of the company at that stage, So I think it's just kind of addressing, making sure that you understand what the kind of key priorities are of the organization right now, and maybe that is something that needs to happen within the company, and maybe it is something they know too, but it's maybe setting expectation of them that this is something you want to lead. Is this something they want you to lead? And put a timeline to it, and if it's not, and if you're not feeling ownership of something that you think is very important, you're not getting the ability to kind of take that and lead it. How important is it to you? Is that something that is there another thing that you can propose? Is there something else that's equally as required and that you could take ownership of? And if not, if there's really just kind of being all your ideas are being rejected, it's
because it's not just you, there's others around you as well that are experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a very fulfilling kind of environment to be in, but personally, that would be very challenging for me, who likes to kind of own and take things, and I don't know. It's just why would you stay? It's really kind of your ideas are just being squashed all the time. So I don't know.
Just to comment on that, actually.
Yeah.
So I've had I worked in startups for a while because I think startups are fantastic and hilarious and all sorts of crazy shit happens. But sometimes especially in those situations, I'll come in as a junior role and it's just you pick your battles, right? You pick one thing that you can demonstrate that you can succeed in. And if you go to your boss and you say, look, this is making money for the company, I just made you $15,000 in a month. Yeah. How do you feel about me doing this again? And if they say no, then screw it, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go somewhere else because I need to be appreciated. If I can't come to you and say, I made you $15,000, this month and every month, I want you to pay me more, and you don't see value in that, then I'm gonna walk away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I say, I want to own 100 different things, it becomes hard to show the value. So you can't really do it. You kind of have to pick your battles. And I find that if you choose the one that you can do the best at, you get fulfilled anyway, because all of a sudden you feel less responsible for all the other things that are being taken from you, and it's kind of just a lighter load in general.
And it's also kind of understanding why, maybe there's a reason why someone's kind of just say no all the time. Is it that for some reason they're not seeing you as that person to help kind of implement those those initiatives, and if so, there's maybe a deeper issue, and so I'm huge on communication, and that's kind of a big deal if you're looking to grow in your career and to kind of help grow an organization and everything like that, and so it's communication, and if it's not working, it doesn't make sense to stay. But I don't know if that's your situation. So, hi. I'm sorry.
So back to your coffee, the coffee website that we're talking about. I've seen a lot of people who get mentors kind of organically, like they'll meet in an event and they'll both talk about something that they have in common. They'll find out, one will find out that, like say one's the CEO of a company and one's just, they find out they're an intern, but they really clicked, and they'll just end up kind of having that organic kind of relationship. Whereas I've seen other students who just go up to somebody and they're like, will you be my mentor?
Yeah.
I've seen that happen, which I don't think works at all. But my question is do you think that website is going to be able to bridge the gap from people who kind of don't know how to take that step and don't know how to speak?
They won't get coffee meetings at all. You have to request a coffee meeting. They have to accept. So if you are not going to, again,
do you think it's going to help people at all that have that problem with going up to people? Because I don't think it's that they don't have anything to add. They're just really quite bad at it.
Just go to talks like this on networking. But that particular event, website is very, strict on, it's up to the person to accept or not. So I can't really tell you. It's, it's up to the individual, but it's designed to kind of quality, So you have had your hand up for a long time.
I was wondering, from your experience dealing with all of these companies that are looking to hire professionals like ourselves in this industry. I mean, we all know that from our point of view, we all want to do something special, something we love. We're all excited about marketing, and we want to be appreciated, and we want to have somewhat of control within a company to do what we need to do to add value.
Yeah.
But from the perspective of employers, what do you see? How are the employers that deal with you, that contract you to get employees for them, how do they see employees this day and age? Do they see them as someone that's going to come into their family and be there long term and be part of it, or do they see them as expendable because there's so many of us that are good at what we do?
That's how we qualify our clients. It's interesting because we have kind of a process that we take our clients through, and as a younger company when we were first starting, anyone that called us, kind of very large retailer, called us and they gave us 5 jobs to work on, and they're all very urgent, they're all full time, and they needed help right away. But they didn't give us a time of day when it came to meeting with them to talk about each role. And so what we stupidly did was we said, yes, we will work on these jobs. Okay, it doesn't matter if you don't have the time. We will just look at a job description and we'll find you people. And in a week or two, we'll send really good people to you screened based on just this piece of paper. And so that resulted in complete failure because it then kind of makes people just this commodity. It's just like you're just putting people in to fill a role without really understanding anything about the team or the organizational culture or the individual requirements of each role, because one senior marketing manager or graphic designer is going to be very different to the other one that works on a different team. So what's the client mix? What are the relationships within the team? What are the group dynamic? And so what we learned through that is that we actually don't work on jobs unless the client is willing to give us the time of day to brief us on the job. So we actually go in, we meet with the clients, very consultative, we figure out what they want, we ask a lot of questions, we get to meet some of the key members of the team so that then we can go back to our candidates and say, hey, we've got the information and here's what we know about this role, and then we have greater success filling it. And if we don't do that because clients resisting, then we push back and we say, well, those are the people, the organizations that don't care at all about their people, and it's just all about kind of putting a butt in a seat. And I find that's, it happens, for sure it happens a lot, because in the marketing industry, especially the advertising industry, it's very reactionary, and people are just they're just running around, you know, like working these crazy hours, and they just have to get people, and they might have won a big pitch, and they have to fill 40 jobs all at once, and they need help, you know, and so for us, it's this kind of educational thing that we have to kind of take our clients through. And yes, they know they have to kind of value people, and that it's very much a fit. It's like dating, you know, you have to kind of find that right fit. And they know that, but they don't a lot of times dedicate the time to making it work. So for us, it's educating them on the value of that. So it's a challenging thing for us in our business we see it all the time. So yeah, ideally you want to work with companies that really take the time to kind of find that right match. But quite often it's not always the case, to be honest. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but.
I guess leading on from that question, in terms of smaller companies versus bigger companies, do you find that they are looking for different things? So, you know, say you've got a smaller company, often they kind of look for more variety of experience, or, you know, like that kind of thing, someone who's like an all-rounder, whereas a big company like that, for someone more specific. Is there anything other than that you find?
That's kind of generally what we find is, you know, smaller organizations really look for like jack of all trades. We had a job description that was actually called the Jack. And so I think that's, you know, it's really common to see. We have seen large organizations that are starting to have these little entrepreneurial groups within them, like, you know, a large internationally known technology company will decide that they've just trashed their they've you know, fired their agency, and they're going to create an in-house creative team. So that's where sometimes the requirement to have like a jack of all trades, maybe like a web developer who does some web design and can do video production, editing, and stuff like that, might be a requirement within a larger company, but it's usually within like these entrepreneurial kind of initiatives.
When do you find the crossover between the two? You know, like big company people going to small and small going to big?
It's really challenging to bring a small company person to a big, at least for a recruitment company, because we get paid fees to find a very specific kind of exact match. And if, let's say, a Microsoft, for example, is going to look for people that come from companies that are the size of a Microsoft, typically. And unless it's a very, very specialized niche kind of skill set, where some of the smaller organizations are starting to really specialize in. So this is where smaller tends to be interesting too, where like there are very niche agencies, like a Powered by Search actually, that really focus on like a very core area. And so I think search is a transferable kind of thing, but yeah, it depends really on what you're specializing in. I think, you know, if it's like a really emerging field that you're in, then I think it's a little bit easier. But if, let's say, you're like a marketing coordinator and you want to really go to a larger company from a smaller company where you might be doing some office management, you might be doing some, you know, like graphic design and some, you know, maybe sales as well. Like, you know, it's the skills that you bring to the table. It's not even about the job description, really, job title. So, does that answer your question? Yeah.
How would you recommend people document and I guess put together what they do while they're working in case of a rainy day? Like what are, I mean, some of the things we do daily is, I mean, you could be doing like a million things, and not all of it's tangible, or that you can like write it down without making it sound like BS to someone.
Yeah. I think everyone in this room should have a portfolio. Even if you're not a creative, everyone should have a website. There's like flavors.me. Does anyone know that website? and it's wonderful. I think it's free, or it's really affordable for hosting, and you can add a lot of your social media websites to it. You can add case studies and little portfolio pieces and things like that within this site. And it's like as a marketer, I think it's important to showcase maybe case studies that you've done, but not showing everything, just being very specific on maybe 3 or 4 very key things that you're most proud of in your career, and showing maybe what the objective was, what the strategy was, and the results, and what your involvement was in that project. I think that's really, really important. You know, it's something we see a lot with designers, but we don't really see it a lot with marketers or account managers and people like that. And they too work on projects, and they too also, you know, are, there's something visual in our industry to show, usually with everything that we're doing. So I think that we can all have like websites and portfolios to show. Yeah.
Just with that, how often as a recruiter would you look at something like that, I guess? Because you spend a lot of time working on that, and then you put it on your, on your resume or as a part of your...
Well, I think there's an expectation that if you're in marketing, you have a website.
Yeah, for sure, but is it like is it on your resume as you're sending it in?
Absolutely.
You would take a look at that?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Dad talked about what's the worst things to do during an interview, and I was just wanting to know a time that someone just really blew you away and did something different than anyone else.
Oh my goodness.
In a good way or a bad way?
Good way. Like, what's something that we can all take away that really sets us apart from other applicants?
Refer to yourself as James Bond. It actually happened when I was doing this interview.
Are you serious?
He's like, I like think myself as James Bond. I'm like, oh, interesting. And then one of them was like, oh, I'd work for Google for $20. Like, interesting.
I don't think, if you come across like there's some really big thing that's going to make me always remember you because it was so out of the box unusual, that's probably not even a good thing.
No,
you know,
not
it's
like that, but like something that like, when you were done the interview, you were like, wow. Like,
Outstanding.
Well, I think it's like, it's some, what are you saying, sorry?
Outstanding.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's like, I talked about 80%. I don't know if that stat's real, but a lot of people are not even doing the basics. And for me, it is such a pleasure to see somebody who, first of all, because they know where my address, they know my address. Like they don't, I've seen people email to ask me the address of where this interview is going to be at my office. So, you know, it's being prepared, coming a little bit early, but not too early to annoy the person that's in you know, busy, 5 minutes. And it's, I like people who have a story. So I started with my story, you know, I like people who take the time to think about, to kind of package up their experience. Even if you just graduated and you think you have nothing to offer a potential employer who is seeking someone with experience, there's a lot of ways to take your background, your personal experiences, your professional experiences, package that together so that you can differentiate yourself. An example is a woman that I met who talked to me about why she got into marketing. And she told me that her parents were owners of a fruit stand in, I think it was like St. Lawrence Market or a market like that. And her entire life as a baby, she grew up in this fruit market. They were, you know, from China, and they worked very hard throughout her entire life. And so her story was, it started when I was a child, you know, like I saw what it was to run a business and to customer service, and I saw what it was to gain loyal clients, and you know, for me, then you get to her core purpose. Like my whole value system now has been around hard work. You know, I've seen hard work. I've seen drive and passion, and I saw my parents work around the clock. And you know what? I admire them so much for that, and I've decided to kind of take that experience and go and study marketing and work for, you know, a whatever type of company that I want to work for. But it's just having a story, and when someone has a story that I think is compelling, because then you kind of understand their what drives them, you know, then I think that's interesting. But even more so if they come prepared and knowing the job and how they can then use that story to match the requirements of the role. I think that's amazing if they can do that. And if they're a good conversationalist and they're a good listener, and if they come ready to converse, not just kind of sell themselves, is really nice. So yeah.
I'm never gonna have kids. I'm like, I'm probably never gonna have kids. And she's like, then why are you working? I'm like, I don't know. Like, because I look at it, and I've looked at so many women, and like, you know, they're getting married, whatever, but they're at the agency till like 7 o'clock. Like, what kind of marriage is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of sad, but
Yeah.
it's true.
This industry has a high rate of breakups and alcoholism and drug abuse. And I'm going through this right now.
Yeah.
And how to answer that? My situation's different. I'm an entrepreneur of a 3-year-old company, so I'm not going anywhere for long. And I will have a nursery in my office, and I will do a lot of crazy things in the next year. So that's going to be my story. But not everyone's lucky enough to be able to take their baby to work. I say that like, you know, I'm so fortunate that I get to do that. I wish I didn't have to, in a way. But again, I'm excited about, you know, this next challenge of mine. But in the industry, like, I don't know. I mean, we're lucky in Canada, we get a year off if you're employed, and the industry is quite accepting of that from my experience. I mean, you know, you've got your 9 months, 1 year that you take off. You have to have a job when you get back, you know. And the thing that I've seen that is challenging is in the digital space, things do change very quickly in the digital space. So I've actually seen a lot of women on mat leave that are still going to conferences, you know, they'll like, to keep current and to keep up to date. But I don't think it's a big issue. Jill, do you think?
No, I mean, I was HR director for 2 agencies.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, it's, you find someone to fill. Listen, if you're good, you're good. I've hired people who are 7 months pregnant because I want them so badly.
Wow.
Yeah, because they're good and you want them. Marissa Meyer was pregnant when she went to work, right? So when she was hired, if you're talented, you're talented, and 9 months, maybe a really long time in the digital world, but 9 months is still a blink of an eye. And so much is done. I mean, you know, there was a time once you couldn't work from home. You had to go into the office. So, you know, unfortunately, it's hard because some moms are back to work, but usually early because they're working at home. But if you're a driver, you're going to do it anyways. I mean, I was back. Trina, you're going to be back 3 days later, I'm sure.
Well, I'll tell you, my
but I'm just saying, it's part of how you're wired, right?
My first child, I got laid off from a job, and I got accepted into this program through the government to help launch a business, and they help take you through this whole government, this business planning process. And as part of that, I ended up committing to a bunch of contracts throughout the duration of doing this program, only to realize that I was pregnant, and I had committed to the government, basically on paper, that I was going to work 40 hours a week, and I was going to bring in X amount of revenue each month and everything like that. So I hid my pregnancy for a long time, and I finally had to kind of tell them, and I had to make a proposal to the government how I was going to manage this whole thing. And they made me put on paper, you will go back to work the day after you give birth. And so I got a call from Mr. Terry O'Reilly 2 weeks after I gave birth to my daughter. And he wanted to talk to me about a big project that he wanted me to work on with him. And I had to because I had committed to the government that I needed to make X amount that month. So I did. And so my baby came to every meeting with Terry and his team. And we were, it was a little bit crazy, but you know, I did what I had to do, you know, and it was actually really fun. My daughter really is an amazing, she gets along with every adult now, and she's very well socialized and everything like that. But that's the challenge of women having this business, you know, is how do you manage, because there's a lot of long hours and,
That's a
you know.
business. You know,
Really?
It's just part of being female. No, but you're always gonna have to manage things like
Yeah, you
that,
always
life and family,
do.
and it's, you know, it's great work if you can get it.
Just one thing in that area though, just any time off is a red flag to recruiters and HR departments, right? So if you've got,
If you ask, if that's your first question.
well, if you've got, like,
Which
if I'm,
vacation do I get?
I mean, no, but like, as in if you're looking at a resume and you see a 2-year gap, that's a question you always ask, right? And especially in tech, like 2-3 years, if you're taking, you know, extra time off, and you say, oh, well, you know, what was happening? Did you keep your skills up?
Well, most people will fill in that. You should, if you're gonna have a gap in your resume, you should fill in what you're
Like
doing.
I saw a
mean,
girl-
If somebody left and went traveling, or somebody left to take care of their family, like, I actually think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like I saw a girl who made a joke out of it on her resume, and she made up some random job title and kind of put that she was a master chef, a master event planner for birthday parties, and you know, and she just, you know, she had like a job description that she put into it, and it was funny. And I interviewed her because it was so interesting, and she was great.
Yeah,
you
I had
know,
someone
so.
she wrote down every single job she applied. I applied there, I applied there. She said, this didn't hire me, these didn't hire me, like all the companies that didn't hire her. And I was like, holy shit, like she was so
Yeah.
impressed, like it was creative and it was
Yeah.
fun. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I interviewed her, she wasn't happy, but she got the interview, she still got the interview.
You had to be at the list, right?
She had my name to the company, and I was there.
I think just as an extension to that, to guard against being replaced in your position, or if you're away and you come back and you know, all of a sudden now you have concerns about whether or not you can still fit in, or if the company's looking at, okay, well, we'll keep them for 2 months and then let them go kind of thing. One of the ways is to be really good at what you do, or just at least have that reputation about you. So when I joined Walter Media, there was this one girl that was already on mat leave, and you know, we sort of had some questions of, okay, we're going through this digital, you know, move, and all these people have sort of to be trained and update their skills and stuff. And what about, you know, Daniela is her name? And there was no doubt from anybody in the organization that Daniela wouldn't come in and be like a superstar at it.
Yeah.
So it was just so good, there was no doubt whatsoever that she would come back and she would not return to being a fulfilling person in her position.
Yeah.
So that's what really good. And then the second thing is, if you're in that position and you're worried about being let go, because a lot of us have probably experienced, I've experienced last year, is to keep like metrics that you yourself measure yourself to. And I find that's really useful because that's something that then goes on my resume to say, you know, here are the projects that I've sort of been involved in, and these were my success rates with each one of this, or these, and that all of a sudden, it like people start asking me about that. They don't ask about, okay, what's your education, what's your, you know, the traditional questions. They're like, oh, well, how did you get to that number? Like, how did you get that level of performance, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think those things really help with making sure that you don't get replaced at an organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, just always stay current and stay connected.
Yeah.
Because you know what, you may be doing a great job and you may be the most valued employee there, but you know, I've also sat with the CFO and we've had to let someone go because Chicago had a really shitty year. So, you know, it's not all a bad, like at the end of the day, you know, it's a business and there's finance guys are gonna make a lot of decisions. So the only thing you have control over is yourself. So just like Trina was saying, websites, keep your resume, portfolios, everything up to date, and know what's going on in the market.
Yeah.
I was with an ambitious startup a couple years back, venture back and everything else. And I thought that everything would be going great, and a lot of people thought the same thing. And then there was just that month where suddenly 3/4 of the companies let go. And I sort of myself and a few of us kind of sort of each other that after that we weren't going to be in that position again. We just came to the solution that you were more than the company that you work for. So you could change from big company to small company, startup to established business, but who you are as an individual is an entity that exists alongside that. And you're bigger than, it's your story. So that one thing that continues, that is with you forever.
Yeah. And there's no such thing as stability ever.
Yeah,
Right?
stability is a
When people say, oh, I really want to work for a large corporation because stability is really important to me, and it's like, it doesn't exist. I think I'm a big fan of the entrepreneur, obviously, and I think that if you're that person that is an opportunist, you can create opportunities that don't exist within a smaller company to prove your worth, and so that you can kind of shift around as needed to help an organization succeed, much more so than a large organization, but that's just my opinion. I've seen, a lot of things happen with people that think they were sad, and after 30 years, done. So, yeah.
When you're looking at applicants and say you see that they're coming from a company that maybe has a reputation for really high turnover, does that make you look at that client, at that person very differently?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you elaborate?
In a way. In the advertising industry, there's kind of a trend of 2-3 years and then you move, which is, it's normal. I think it's unfortunate. There's also people that have been in agencies for a long time where you start questioning why. Are they stale? Are they afraid of change? This is an industry that does embrace a lot of change, and so how would they do in an environment where, there is that. So there's two sides to that, but I think if you're young, I think I've had, if you count when I was 14 and first started working, when I was a kid at West, I probably have had 30 jobs. So I'm not one to speak of, staying in one place for long, but I do know that as you get more seasoned, there's an expectation. I think if you're junior, you're expected to explore a little bit, right, to kind of figure out what your niche is. 2-3 jobs in, you should probably be sticking around for a decent amount of time.
What I meant was a company that has a reputation for high turnover. Like their employees don't stay long.
Oh, okay. So
some people go to an organization like that because they know they can learn ahead of what they would be at a more stable company. Because such a high turnover, they can learn things that they wouldn't be able to at another company. And some people go because they don't have a choice, and then some people just they don't know, I guess.
Yeah. A lot of it depends on the industry. Some industries, just by nature of the type of people they hire, maybe they tend to hire more junior people for whatever reason their industry calls for it. There is going to be a lot of high turnover. I know that in the staffing business that just does like temporary staffing, they hire a lot of people straight out of school, and that has a lot of churn because it's young people who are exploring a career path. They've never done it before, and then they decide they're good at it, and then they jump ship to go and get a raise somewhere else. And so that is an industry that typically has a lot of turnover. But I would look at that, as you're exploring employers, and you want to see that, they have an ability to kind of keep their staff, and that's an important thing for sure. Yeah. Okay. Oh.
Do you think it's more creative people who tend to stay for like a couple of months and then go somewhere else, or is it business account managers? Like, what's the average
kind of
time?
In our industry in general, I think it's just very common, I think probably in my experience, creatives tend to actually kind of stick around a little longer than like the very new business type of focused individuals who it's kind of about the thrill of the win, and they've tried something and they've succeeded at it, but then they have to go try it over here. But that's generalizing. I think that our industry in general is just known for people moving because that seems to be how people get raises.
Well, and also I think you're dealing with people who value creativity, and often with that comes freedom and innovation, so they get bored very easily and they get tempted to move very easily.
Yeah.
So it's kind of part and parcel. If you want to get extroverts and people who value creativity, you put them on the bank for so long, they're going to quit.
Yeah.
And it's just the business.
And there's agency networks, so like the YPP or WPP and agencies like that, where like any agency that is part of a network, if you want to move within that network, you can't get a raise.
Yeah.
Or it's like a really small
Smaller
percentage. So a lot of the time people will.
They can't move without calling their sister company's HR department.
Yeah, so that's how that works.
Just one question. Is it cultural that staying in one place for 30 years or 20 years and moving within the same organization? Because I've noticed that a lot here.
Really? Staying in one place and moving
like I've met people who have been like 30 years actually in the same bank.
Within what industry?
Financial industry.
Yeah, that's
actually they moved from like financial department to the marketing department to the HR and they didn't get it.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely see that. But with it, like when I say the high turnover, I'm referring a lot to agency, advertising agency, marketing company type of individuals. But when you go into corporate, absolutely, yeah.
But would you favor somebody who was like
No, that's where it's a little bit different, where it's like you do see those longer term people that have been in organizations for longer term and kind of get promoted within, and that's actually a good thing. So yeah, for sure. And so it's funny, hey, like depending on the industry that we're working in, I think it's but to be in one company for 30 years, I don't see that often in marketing in general.
Yeah, that's because they ended in marketing.
Yeah.
But they have been working for like
yeah, I mean, typically they're not going to be the most current marketer, I would think.
Yeah.
But
some kind of old school of this.
Yeah.
We have time for one final question.
Yeah.
I had a question about the dancing pool.
Okay.
So, okay, don't judge me on this, okay? But, okay, how important is the visibility of people buying into your idea? And is it worth staging?
Yeah. To only tell the select few. How important is the visibility of people buying into the idea? So that second person?
Like you know, you have a great idea. You know that if you had those first dancers, it would spark. I don't know, just giving you something to work on.
You're talking about buying followers on Twitter?
No. Yeah, I get it.
Like hiring those first few people.
Yeah, I guess so.
If you get caught though, you're done.
Yeah, then you're so inauthentic, they'll find out.
And the people who you fooled will resent you. So it's a big risk.
Yeah.
Like Facebook.
I would say like if it's worth getting behind, someone will find it interesting and be that spark, right? Like if the idea is good enough.
If you trick them into being your spark, then I don't know if that's.
I don't know. I mean, if you want to create a movement, you know, like you think of those like those mob things, flash mobs, like that's
that is.
right. Like it's like that.
You have like 30 people who are like ready to dance.
Yeah, like it's a staged thing, you know. That's kind of a movement, I guess. Get crowds to do something together. But if I don't know. It's about kind of being authentic and genuine, and you know, knowing that depending on what this initiative is and how, like what specifically it is, and if you get caught, it's kind of a bad thing. So you have to kind of have some PR around what if to help you there. But if it does catch on and you planned it, that's okay, provided that you're kind of prepared for the consequence of it, you know, going really bad.
I think it comes down to intent, right? If it's more of a genuine, like flash mobs are not to really raise money or to create profit for any individual person or company. So that's more looked upon as a positive contribution to society or local community. But if it's something that's staged and, you know, wind breaks that all of a sudden there was some sort of large transaction involved and somebody profited from the whole thing, then
Yeah.
there's backlash that's going to
Yeah, it's
come as a result of it, because you didn't earn the trust. It was more like you staged why they should trust you. So it's more of like having a dictator versus democratically.
You're right, like it
governed.
is the intention, right? It's, yeah, it's very much, like if it's like some interesting charity initiative that like you need to get some people on board for it and you need to kind of kickstart it, that people might be a little more forgiving there if you get kind of busted on, planning the whole thing out. But yeah, if you're absolutely right. Yeah. Cool. All right.
Oh. With that, we'll wrap up. We'd love to take further questions afterwards.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us for the evening. I just wanted to